of their IRGC, military, and other security and police forces no longer want to fight and are looking for immunity from us. As I said last night, quote, now they can have immunity, later they only get death. This is a long message, so bear with us. Hopefully, Trump continues, hopefully the IRGC and police will peacefully merge with the Iranian patriots and work together as a unit to bring back the country to the greatness that it deserves. That process should soon be starting, in that not only the death of Khamenei, but the country has been in only one day very much destroyed and even obliterated. The heavy and pinpoint bombing, however, will continue uninterrupted throughout the week, or as long as necessary to achieve our objective of, capital letters, peace throughout the Middle East, and indeed the world, exclamation mark. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Al Jazeera's Mike Hanna is joining us from Washington, D.C. Mike, this was posted 2 minutes ago. What information did you have just before this came online? What information did you have on your end? What are you hearing from your sources, whether it's the White House, whether it's the State Department, or whether it's the Pentagon?
Well, we had heard President Trump say publicly in an interview a short while ago that he believed that the Ayatollah Khomeini was indeed dead. And he said as well that he believed that a large number of the Iranian leadership had also been killed. But now we've got that full statement on Truth Social, which you just read. So you've got all the details of that particular statement, making very clear that the President of the United States believes that the Ayatollah Khomeini is dead. Also noting at the end of that statement, the comment that the heavy and pinpoint bombing, however, will continue uninterrupted through the week or as long as necessary to achieve our objective. Now, earlier in the day, President Trump was talking about the possibility of these strikes lasting a few days and then returning again should Iran continue its nuclear development program, as the US claims that it has been doing. But in the same interview, he also said that he could last as long as it takes to take over everything. So not very clear in terms of the president's mind whether there is a timeline in this, whether there's an off-ramp to this conflict. But now we see as well the president doubling down in that Truth Social issue, posting, confirming reports that originally originated in Israel that the Ayatollah Khomeini has been killed in these strikes, along with a number of other senior
CEO Young Burger! Vivi Sarap! Resto Style Burger at home!
Was perhaps Trump was repeating what he'd been told by the Israelis, and it was the same Israeli chatter and the same one unconfirmed source. But now you've read out that long, very carefully drafted statement. Someone thought about that, someone wrote it carefully. Yes, there's some Trump flourishes in there, but it's a very well prepared statement. That certainly the way that would normally work, and the Trump administration doesn't always work the way that previous administrations have, is that would have gone through the US intelligence community. That would have gone through the CIA. There are a total of 18 different intelligence agencies in the United States. And they would, one would have thought, normally have to have quite a high degree of confidence before putting that out. Because remember the stakes here. President Trump set this as the goal of this operation. He made it clear he wanted to remove the supreme leader. He wanted people to rise up and take over control in Iran. That was the bar he set himself. So if he is wrong about this, then he's going to, it's not going to look very good.
It is 21:46 GMT, and I'm going to remind all our viewers just joining us of what we found out. Minutes ago, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, posted a long message on his social media, Truth Social, saying that the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, a nemesis of the United States, is now dead. Those are the words of Donald Trump. The message goes something like this: he is dead. This is justice. The words of Donald Trump. This is justice for all the people whom he has hurt. He was unable to avoid our intelligence and our tracking system. And Donald Trump frames this as a chance for Iranians to take back their country. You see the message there on your screen, to take back their country. Donald Trump also says two more crucial things. He is hearing that the IRGC, that is Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, that are assistant of the Iranian Islamic Revolution, he says that the IRGC may no longer want to fight. Remember that Donald Trump this morning, when he declared war on Iran, had said lay down to, addressing the IRGC and all of Iran's law enforcement and security forces had said lay down your weapons and you will get immunity. He is saying that that may be happening, his words. And he expresses hope that the police, IRGC, and law enforcement will now side with the Iranian population, all of this again in Donald Trump's framing, and take back their country, but that the U.S. bombing on Iran will very much continue throughout the week. That is the substance of the message by the U.S. president. Your thoughts, Ali?
Well, the statement is clear from the American side, from the Israeli side, very certain. And the amount of certainty that we are seeing from the Israelis and the Americans gives us indication, very strong indication that this has happened. Till the moment, we don't have a voice from Iran coming out and saying this is not true, at least what we had from the foreign minister, the supreme leader, as far as you know, is alive. Then the spokesperson to the foreign ministry also stressed that the supreme leader and the president survived the attack. According to sources on the ground, I'm talking to them saying that the supreme leader is alive. Now, over here we have two conflicting accounts, but the amount
Shall
of
we tell our
certainty.
viewers this is absolutely to be expected in a situation like this? Like, you'll absolutely expect in a war like this, one side to say, to claim victory, whatever victory that might be. In this case, it is the killing, according to Donald Trump, of the Iranian supreme leader, and the other side to completely deny it. And usually it takes a few hours, sometimes more, by the way, sometimes days, for the dust to settle and for us to get certainty. This is normal.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why we cannot come out with a conclusion. What we can is just to report what Trump is saying and what Netanyahu is saying on one side, and on the other side, they're denying. So,
and as somebody who covers Iran, you have many times been in a position where there has been a source or there has been information that Ali Khamenei had been killed, and the question was put to you, and you had to exercise
on occasions there were reports of Khamenei being dead, but also on other occasions. Now, this is not the occasion of a leader being killed. For example, when Qasem Soleimani was killed, he just like
former head of the IRGC,
former head of the Quds Force, and a very influential commander in Iran. In just like a couple of hours, he was announced dead. Now, in 2024, when the president's plane crashed, the helicopter, May 2024, along with the foreign minister, it took them some time to announce, but we were all in the situation to understand that there is something happening because the plane crashed and there's no news. But now, what they are saying to the moment is that he is safe.
Denial, strong denial from the Iranians.
Now, is this because we are in the middle of a war and the Iranian government or the system wants to preserve the morale and all these things? This is a...
I want to go straight to the Iranian capital, see what we can find out from there. Al Jazeera's Tawhid Asadi is in Tehran. Tawhid, on your end, what do you hear?
Well, on my end, what I'm hearing from different sources is quite contradictory to this very recent strong statement by the U.S. President Donald Trump, who came out with a significant amount of certainty about the death of the Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. First, it was the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi coming out to say that, quote-unquote, as far as he knows, the Iranian Supreme Leader, as well as the President, as well as the Secretary for the National Security Council of the country, Ali Larijani, and the Speaker of the Parliament are all alive. This is what we heard earlier from him. Also, we've got the head of public relations of Supreme Leader's office saying that, following these reports, saying that these are sort of psychological warfare from the enemy, and also Iranian official news agencies such as Tasnim and Merk News are all saying that Iranian Supreme Leader is firm and steadfast, commanding the battlefield. These are the reports, but added to that is that earlier today, or now I should say yesterday, we witnessed the hostile neighborhood being targeted several times by this campaign of strikes by the Americans and Israelis. And for our viewers, this is the neighborhood that key important actually facilities and of course places politically speaking are located, such as the office of the Supreme Leader as well as the office of the Iranian president, as well as two important military universities, and these are critically important, seeing the very recent reports that are coming. And of course, speaking of the official statements, I can say denial is the gist of the matter when it comes to these reports. But previously, back in June, when we had a sort of similar situation following the initiation of the first day of the attacks, we've got very immediate reactions, very immediate confirmations about the deaths of very, very important figures, such as the head of IRGC.
So
and
I'm
also
going to have to jump in because I'm seeing the United States ambassador to the United Nations speaking right now in New York.
Nuclear weapon. As President Trump said last night, for decades, the Iranian regime has willfully destabilized the world. It has killed American forces and citizens, threatened regional allies, and jeopardized the security of international shipping, upon which the world depends. Its massive support for violent proxies, declared terrorist organizations, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, and others, has brought bloodshed and disorder across the Middle East for far too long. This is not speculation. We know this to be true, and our men and women have paid for the actions of this regime and the IRGC with their lives. No responsible nation can ignore persistent aggression and violence. The regime in Tehran has led attacks that have cost American lives. Hundreds of U.S. Marines in Lebanon, thousands of troops in Iraq. American hostage after hostage has suffered. Our ships fired upon dozens of times in the Red Sea. Iran has armed and financed militant organizations that undermine lawful governments and destabilize an already fragile region. Iran's continued pursuit of advanced missile capabilities, coupled with its refusal to abandon nuclear ambitions despite diplomatic opportunities, presents a grave and mounting danger. The international community has long affirmed a simple and necessary principle: Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That principle is not a matter of politics, it's a matter of global security. And to that end, the United States is taking lawful actions. This body, the United States Security Council, has acted repeatedly on this threat. 20 years ago, starting in 2006, Resolution 1696 demanded that Iran suspend all uranium enrichment-related and reprocessing activities, invoking Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, and adopting a legally binding resolution. When Iran failed to comply, this council followed with Resolution 1737, imposing mandatory sanctions, including bans on nuclear-related materials and technology, asset freezes on key individuals and entities linked to their nuclear program, and establishing a sanctions committee. Subsequent resolutions, 1747 in the year 2007, expanded arms embargoes and asset freezes. Resolution 1803 in 2008 tightened restrictions on dual-use goods and calling for the inspections of Iranian cargo. Resolution 1835 in 2008 reaffirmed the need for full compliance. And Resolution 1927 in 2010, which was the most comprehensive, banning ballistic missile activities, tightening the conventional arms embargo, targeting the IRGC and shipping lines, and prohibiting new Iranian banking relationships, built a robust multilateral framework to curb Iran's nuclear and missile pursuits. These measures, again adopted under Chapter 7, represented the world's collective judgment that Iran's actions pose a threat to international peace and security. And despite numerous opportunities for an alternative path, Iran remained defiant. And the Security Council decided on September 19th of last year, 2025, to restore these measures, snapback sanctions, sending a clear message that the world will not acquiesce to threats and half measures, and Tehran would be held to account. On top of these actions by the UN, American diplomacy was attempted repeatedly and in good faith. President Trump, Secretary Rubio, our special envoys Witkoff and Kushner were relentlessly dedicated to diplomacy. But diplomacy cannot succeed where there is no genuine willingness to cease aggression, where there is no genuine partner for peace. As President Trump said today, and he spoke directly to the Iranian people, he said, quote, "To the proud, great people of Iran, I saw tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand." The entire world has witnessed the regime's wholesale slaughter of innocent civilians. The sad irony is that this same regime will attempt to lecture us today about human rights and the rule of law. Its presence here in this council makes a mockery of this body. But where the UN lacks moral clarity, the United States of America will maintain it. Indiscriminate and unprovoked attacks by the Iranian regime today against our regional partners, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, Jordan, and others, reinforce precisely why such actions are necessary. The regime has not only struck military assets, but civilian infrastructure as well. Those who stand with us must know that their security is not negotiable. The safety of our allies is not conditional. It is assured. The bottom line is this, colleagues. Our allies and partners can count on the United States and can count on President Trump. Colleagues, peace is not preserved by appeasing those who threaten it. Peace is preserved through strength in the face of terror. History has taught us that the cost of inaction is far greater than the burden of decisive action. And our president, President Trump, has taken that decisive action today. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the United States.
It's not
for the
until
statement.
you fall
I give the floor to the
back,
representative.
you fly. When your dreams come alive, you're unstoppable.
Convening the Council for this urgent meeting following the latest developments in the Middle East. I also wish to thank the Secretary General for his statement. Today's developments are deeply concerning and pose the risk of further destabilizing an already volatile situation at a time of heightened tensions in the Middle East. Mr. President, let me reiterate our
It is 22 GMT. You are watching our continuing coverage of the joint Israeli and U.S. strikes on Iran. I'm Cyril Lanier, and here's the very latest. U.S. President Donald Trump says that Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei is dead. In a Truth Social post, Trump said that President Khamenei, one of the most evil people in history, is dead. This is not only justice for the people of Iran, he wrote, but for all great Americans that have been killed or mutilated by Khamenei and his gang. He was unable to avoid our intelligence and highly sophisticated tracking systems, and working closely with Israel, there was not a thing that he or the other leaders that have been killed along with him could do. The heavy and pinpoint bombing, however, will continue uninterrupted throughout the week, or as long as necessary to achieve our objective of peace throughout the Middle East, and indeed the world. We have a team of correspondents in Washington, D.C., in Tehran, in Ramallah, that's in the occupied West Bank, at the UN headquarters in New York, where that Emergency Security Council meeting was just taking place, and also here in Qatar's capital, Doha. Starting now with Mike Hanna, who's joining us from Washington, D.C. Mike, what are you learning on your end? We are minutes removed from Donald Trump writing and posting on his social media that Ali Khamenei is dead. What are you learning?
Yes, well, earlier President Trump had made a couple of scattered comments to news media saying that he believed that the feeling that the Ayatollah Khomeini was dead was correct. But in this very carefully drafted statement, it would appear that he is now convinced that that is the case. And I stress again that this is a carefully drafted statement, one that is not just thrown out in a matter of minutes. So it has been worked on by President Trump and his staff. So they would appear to be convinced that this is indeed the case. There's no indication what the source of President Trump's intelligence is, but from that statement, that very lengthy statement, he makes very clear his belief that the Ayatollah is dead, along with a number of other senior Iranian leaders, and also implying that the Revolutionary Guard is about to turn their backs and maybe join those protests which President Trump has been encouraging. Just one other thing, it's important for us and our viewers to note that the Ayatollah Khomeini 25 years ago made a fatwa against production and development of nuclear weapons, declaring it to be haram, that is forbidden. So if indeed the Ayatollah Khomeini has been killed, so we are still awaiting any form of confirmation from the Iranian side on this. That is what we have from President Trump posting on his social media.
But Mike, I'm going to get the perspective from Tehran, find out what Tawhid Asadi knows. Just before I go to Tawhid, though, hold on. Mike Hanna, do you know anything, just very briefly, about a possible press conference or public address to the media or to the nation coming from the White House today, or not at all?
Well, the short answer to that is no, I do not know. But what I can tell you is that the White House has formally set a lid on comments and on photographs, so it would appear that there will be no public statement from the president in the course of the evening.
Okay, this is what we know minutes after 2200 GMT. Mike Hanna, thank you very much. We'll come back to you before long. Let's go to Tawhid, who's in Tehran. So Tawhid, you heard that. On one side of this story, we have the President of the United States saying that the Supreme Leader of Iran is now dead. What are you hearing and what do you know?
On the other side of the story, we have got this entirety of statements coming from Tehran based on the very gist of the matter that these reports are not true. First is the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in an interview saying that as far as he knows, the Iranian Supreme Leader as well as other important officials of the country, such as the President, the head of the Secretary of the National Security Council, as well as the Speaker of the Parliament, are all alive. Also, we've got the head of public relations of the Supreme Leader's office saying that this is part of the psychological warfare, quote unquote, by the enemy. And of course, we've got other sources, such as at least 2 members of parliament, saying that these reports are false. And speaking of the news outlets, the official news outlets such as Tasnim, which is closely affiliated with IRGC, and also Mer News Agency, we've got reports that these are actually statements now coming from the US president in a very strong way are not true. But also on the other hand, yesterday when the campaign strikes started by the Americans and Israelis, Pastor neighborhood was one of the areas which targeted, and as I told you earlier, Cyril, it is a very politically sensitive and important neighborhood, since it houses the office of the Supreme Leader and the office of the Iranian President. And I saw a considerable presence of security forces following the initiation of these strikes in the vicinity of that area. This is what we know so far, but still, as Ali was mentioning, this is not going to be the end of it. Of course, we can rest assured that if that happens, it is the reddest red line that the US could have crossed, so there might be really tough repercussions ahead in case that happens. It's going to be a game changer if that happens. But still, we know that, speaking of the mechanisms, basically there is this clear process defined by the Article 111 of the Iranian Constitution, which paves the way for a trajectory. First of all, there is going to be a council of 3 people: the Iranian president, the head of judiciary and also one member of the Guardian Council for a short period of time taking care of the leadership of the country, and then the assembly of experts, or what we call in Persian Majlis Khebragan, are going to actually have meetings to actually appoint the next leader of the country. But I think it's a little bit early, despite this announcement by the US president, to jump into any definitive conclusion about the fate of Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. As right now, we don't have any official confirmation regarding these reports that are coming from the Israeli and American side.
Yeah, it is 1:35 a.m. where you are, I beg your pardon, Tawheed, so well into the night, and Iranian authorities have been saying it is a full denial that they are giving to Donald Trump's social media post saying that the supreme leader is dead. They're saying that is not true. They're saying that Ali Khamenei is in charge of Iran, and he's very much in command at this hour. Tawheed, thank you very much. I'll let you work your sources. U.S. and Israeli strikes that began on Saturday have continued into the night. Iranian media, citing the Red Crescent, say at least 201 people have been killed and more than 700 injured in Iran. Iran has closed its airspace and cut mobile phone services. Tehran retaliated with a series of strikes targeting Israel and U.S. military assets across the Gulf region. And this was the scene earlier in Tel Aviv, where the ambulance service reported more than 20 people have been injured in an Iranian attack. The Israeli military saying air defenses have intercepted dozens of missiles. Nida Ibrahim is joining us from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. What's the latest where you are, Nida?
Well, as of 20 minutes ago, the Israeli command, the Israeli entity that is responsible for telling Israelis what to do in terms and during these emergencies, have told people they can leave the shelters, but they can stay close to them. But the latest we've heard from the last strike that hit Tel Aviv is that the Israeli ambulance is saying that 21 Israelis have been injured, 16 of them suffered minor injuries, and 2 have suffered critical conditions. Now, Israeli media is talking about one Israeli woman that has been killed as a result of this attack. Of course, this is yet to be confirmed from medical sources, but indeed, this would be, if confirmed, the first death since the operation started in the early hours of Saturday around 8 a.m. local time. We are now after midnight, and while the skies might look calm for now, that's not the situation in the Israeli cities that are bracing themselves for a difficult night. And indeed, since it became darker here, we've noticed the intensity of the Iranian missile increasing, but for now it has been subdued. But again, the Israelis have been bracing themselves for a difficult night, and this news of this latest strike that one rocket at least has hit 2 buildings and the interceptors failed to thwart it is indeed a big deal when it comes to this war, and this would be the first announced rocket that the interceptors have failed to intercept.
Nida Ibrahim reporting from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Thank you very much, Nida. Sina Azodi is the director of the Middle East Studies program at George Washington University. And Sina, you're joining us from Washington, D.C. So as we speak, at this very moment, we have one very big claim by the U.S. president that Iran's supreme leader is dead. And we have one very forceful denial by Iran saying that Ali Khamenei is not only alive, but very much in command of the country. Your thoughts?
Well, I think everybody will use the piece of news for their propaganda purposes. Each side has very strong incentives to make that claim. And unless we see some sort of evidence from the Iranian side, if there is a speech from Khamenei, or if from the Israeli or the American side, they said they have claimed, at least the Israelis have claimed that they've seen a photo of Ayatollah Khamenei's body. Unless there's some evidence released to the public, everything is speculation, and even the Secretary General of the UN has not confirmed it yet. There is a good chance that he might be dead, but again, everything is right now speculations. Everybody makes strong claims, and we will have to wait and see for the evidence to draw conclusions.
What if he is indeed confirmed dead? He has been running Iran and governing Iran for 37 years, and he is the ultimate decider for all of the country's most important issues. What if Donald Trump's social media post turns out to be accurate?
Well, if it is accurate, the Islamic Republic's constitution has procedures for this. That there will be an emergency session of the Assembly of Experts, a body that was designed to appoint the next supreme leader. In the case that that Assembly of Experts, for any reason that does not meet to appoint the next supreme leader, we have to keep in mind that the Islamic Republic in the past year, since June 2025, has been preparing for this eventuality. And there was a report last year that Ayatollah Khamenei has nominated 3 candidates to succeed him should anything happen to him. So from my perspective, even if the claim by President Trump is accurate, I don't believe that we should expect a regime collapse or a political vacuum at the top, because the Islamic Republic has been preparing itself for this moment.
So both the U.S. and Israel seem to be relying on the idea that they are going to strike at the very top of the Iranian state, which is what they're saying right now that they've done. They're going to do that, and then they're going to rely on an Iranian popular uprising to, in their words, take back their country. Right? That is how both Trump and Netanyahu have presented their entire endeavor as relates to Iran. Do you see a popular uprising as a possibility in the next few hours and days?
The footage that I've seen from Tehran is that a lot of people are cheering, a lot of people are happy. We have to keep in mind that Islamic Republic just killed thousands of Iranian people a month ago. So I don't think that he will be missed. But I don't think that air campaigns bring regime changes. We have yet to see people rising up and coming to the streets to try to bring down the Islamic Republic. For a matter of fact, when bombs start to fall, people tend to take shelter, not any democratic movement. That is my expectation. This is something that history teaches us. During World War II, this is what was happened in Serbia, in Iraq in 1990s. Air campaigns are an effective tool of destruction, but they're not an effective tool of regime change or coercion.
What about the claim by Donald Trump just minutes ago in his social media that some members or some parts of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps currently want to stop fighting, have immunity, and essentially, I won't say side with the U.S. because the U.S. president didn't say that, but at least stop fighting the U.S. What about that claim?
I'm not really sure. I have yet to see any evidence that senior commanders of the IRGC or political officials have defected. I have not seen that, but I'm sure that some people, even some of the people within the IRGC, perhaps the mid-ranking, lower ranks, are dissatisfied with whatever is happening in the country, the economic situation, water crisis, multi-drug crisis that Iran is facing. But I still believe that the senior commanders are still loyal to the Islamic Republic because they think that if the regime collapses, their safety might be endangered.
So the question remains about the stress test that this all poses for the Iranian state structure, right? You explained to us, as did our correspondent earlier, that there are procedures in place for this. Of course, the Supreme Leader was 86. There have been rumors about his passing previously, and there has been recent reporting that he had named multiple possible successors to prepare for the potential that he either would be completely out of communication or killed, because he knew, as many of us in the region saw coming, that there would be probably a war between the US and Iran. So the system was indeed prepared for appointing a successor. But right now the system is under immense stress and is under continued and relentless bombardment by the US and Israel. And so the question that poses is, can the system survive this stress?
I believe that it will. And my reference is right at the beginning of the Iranian Revolution, when the Islamic Republic came to power, it survived political assassinations. The president, the prime minister, members of the parliament were assassinated. Even there was an attempt on Khamenei's life where he lost mobility in his right hand. At the time when it was fighting a total war with Iraq from 1980 to 1988. So you're talking about a system that was born into a revolution, survived an 8 year of total war, political assassinations, and economic warfare by the United States. So from my point of view, the system is quite resilient, but I will also say that one of the rules of international politics is that anything is possible. We may wake up tomorrow and the Islamic Republic is gone, but I believe that it's quite unlikely because, as I said, the system is quite resilient. And in this case, since June 2025, they've been preparing the system for such an eventuality.
Sina Azodi, thank you very much for joining us on the Al Jazeera News Hour. Marwan Bashara is Al Jazeera's senior political analyst, and Marwan, you're joining us live from the Qatari capital here in Doha. As we speak, Marwan, we don't know exactly what reality we face. Donald Trump is describing this current moment as one where the Iranian supreme leader is dead, and the Iranians are saying, no, he's not. Where do you see this going forward, given the uncertainty that we're in right now?
There is uncertainty about his death, but there is certainty about his importance in Iran since the revolution. You could say that there is no more important name since 1979 than Ali Khamenei, not only because he himself has ruled in one capacity or another for the past 47 years, but in fact, after being president from sort of 8 years in the 1990s, he became the supreme leader and presided over 6 other presidents. The centrist Rafsanjani, the 3 reformers, if you will, Khatami, Rouhani, and lately Pezeshkian. And he certainly also presided over the 2 more radical ones, and that is Ahmadinejad and Raisi. So you could see the man presided in the beginning and then became the supreme leader that presided over 6 other presidents. So there is no more important character in modern revolutionary Iran than Ali Khamenei. So to speak of his death or his survival is of course key to the future of the revolution and its survival within this war, because it will mean a lot to the psychology of those who are fighting now for the revolution against the United States and Israel.
Marwan, what do you think of this, what sounds like a plan that both Netanyahu and Trump have presented, that they are going to strike some key and strategic targets in Iran, and they're going to continue to do so for a few days, and then they hope, and they're calling on the Iranian people to go and, in their words, take back Iran. What do you think of?
Wearing all hats, it could be exhausting, right? Well, that's why I started using Upwork. It's been a total game changer. Upwork makes it easy to find talented freelancers who are willing to jump in and help with things like video editing, website design, graphic design, e-commerce, and beyond. Upwork helps me scale up or down without massive overhead or long-term commitments. Cut costs, not talent. Post a job for free on Upwork.com and finally take something off your plate.
With Oriental suits with plenty of high
for regime change, invasion, occupation, without UN Security Council resolution. It bombed, it invaded, it occupied. It was a huge disaster as well. Lost several thousand soldiers, trillions of dollars, and of course, hundreds of thousands of Iraqis died in the process. And then there was Libya. In Libya, there was a UN Security Council resolution, but it wasn't for regime change. It was for responsibility to protect, meaning to protect the Libyan people from Gaddafi, who wanted to kill so many. And then eventually it led to a regime change, not by American interference or European interference on the ground, but by bombing, decapitating, and then telling the Libyan people that they could basically rise against their leader. What happened was an implosion within Libya that continues to suffer divisions and violence, tribal politics, and so on and so forth ever since. So I think the idea here in Iran will probably resemble most what Obama did in Libya, which is bomb, 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 and then expect the Iranians to change the system. Now, there's one other example that tells you how reckless this was, and that was in 1991, after the United States bombed the hell out of Iraq in order to undermine Saddam Hussein. It asked the Iraqis to revolt against the Saddam Hussein, and many, especially the Shiites and the Kurds, revolted against Iraq. But America abandoned them in the hands of Saddam Hussein, who bombed, and killed countless people, amongst them back